Here's something almost no appointment has time to explain. Every night while you sleep, your kidneys are still working. They're filtering waste, helping regulate fluid balance, supporting blood pressure control, and doing some of their most important behind-the-scenes repair work while your body is finally at rest. And what you eat in that last hour before bed can influence how smoothly that overnight process goes. Most kidney conversations focus on what to avoid: too much salt, too much sugar, too many ultra-processed foods. And yes, that matters. But there's another side to the conversation that almost nobody talks about clearly enough. What you can add at night that may work with your body instead of against it. Tonight, I want to show you one fruit that deserves far more attention than it gets when we talk about kidney-friendly evening habits. And the reason it matters has less to do with hype and more to do with timing. Before we get into it, subscribe and hit the bell if you want more research-aware, practical health information explained simply. And in the comments, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is where you are right now. I read every single one. Stay with me, because the most important part of this conversation is not just what fruit to eat. It's why eating it before bed may make more sense than eating it at any other time of day. I'm Dr. Ryan Foster. And before I tell you what the fruit is, I want to take 1 minute to explain something that makes the rest of this much easier to understand. Your kidneys are not passive organs. They are constantly adjusting, filtering, balancing, and responding to what's happening in your bloodstream. They help manage waste products, electrolytes, fluid levels, and signals connected to blood pressure. At night, when your body is supposed to be winding down, your kidneys benefit from the same thing the rest of your body benefits from: less stress, steadier blood pressure, better blood sugar control, and lower inflammation. That's why your nighttime routine matters more than most people realize. If your late evening habit is salty snacks, sugary desserts, processed foods, or heavy meals right before bed, you're asking your body to do extra work during the exact window when it should be shifting into repair mode. But if your evening habit supports better sleep quality, a calmer metabolic state, and a lighter digestive load, that can be a much friendlier environment for your kidneys overnight. So what's the fruit? Tart cherries. And no, I'm not talking about candy, fruit syrup, or a sugar-loaded juice drink pretending to be healthy. I'm talking about real tart cherries or unsweetened tart cherry products used carefully and intentionally. Here's why tart cherries stand out. First, they're uniquely associated with the nighttime conversation. Most fruits are discussed in terms of vitamins, fiber, or antioxidants. Tart cherries are different because they've also become well known for their connection to sleep support. And that matters because sleep and kidney health are more connected than many people understand. When sleep is poor, blood pressure often stays more elevated through the night than it should. Stress hormones can remain more active. Blood sugar control can worsen. Inflammation can rise. None of that is helpful for kidneys. So if one simple evening food helps support a more restful night while also giving you antioxidant compounds from a whole food source, that becomes especially interesting. Second, tart cherries contain plant compounds that are widely discussed for their antioxidant and anti-inflammatory potential. And when we talk about protecting kidney health, especially over time, lowering unnecessary inflammatory burden is part of the bigger picture. Third, tart cherries can feel like a real routine, not just a nutrition rule. That matters more than people think. The healthiest habits are rarely the most complicated ones. They're the ones you'll actually repeat. A small, consistent, easy evening habit usually beats an ambitious health plan you abandon in 4 days. And a bowl of tart cherries or a small serving of unsweetened tart cherry juice is simple enough that many people can genuinely stick with it. Now, let's talk about what most people get wrong. They hear cherries are healthy, then go buy the sweetest cherry drink they can find. Or they choose a product that looks healthy on the front label but is loaded with added sugar once you turn it around and read the back. That defeats the purpose. If you're trying to support kidney health, flooding your system with added sugar at night is not the move. The goal is not to turn a potentially helpful fruit into a dessert disguised as wellness. The goal is to keep it simple and keep it close to the whole food form whenever possible. So if you're going to try this, think in terms of a modest serving, not a giant portion. Think unsweetened, not heavily sweetened. Think intentional eating habit, not random snacking. And there's another reason I like tart cherries in this conversation. They naturally create a pause. A lot of nighttime eating is not hunger. It's habit, fatigue, stress, boredom, or reward seeking after a long day. That usually leads people toward chips, cookies, ice cream, or leftovers they didn't even really want. Replacing that reflex with something lighter and more structured can help in ways that go beyond the fruit itself. Because now you're not just eating tart cherries. You're avoiding the late-night food pattern that may be doing the real damage. That's a huge distinction. For some people, the benefit of this habit is not only what they're adding, it's what they're no longer doing right before bed. Now let me add an important caution, because this is where oversimplified health videos usually fail people. Kidney health is not one size fits all. If you have advanced kidney disease, if you've been told to monitor potassium closely if you're on dialysis, if you have fluid restrictions, or if your clinician has given you highly specific dietary boundaries, then even healthy foods need to fit your individual plan. A fruit that sounds helpful in general may still need to be portioned carefully for you specifically. That doesn't mean tart cherries are automatically off the table. It means your personal numbers matter more than any general video ever could. And if you're dealing with chronic kidney disease, unexplained swelling, uncontrolled blood pressure, changes in urination, or abnormal labs, this is the kind of conversation to bring to your doctor or kidney dietitian. Because context matters, let me also say this clearly. Tart cherries are not a treatment for kidney disease. They are not a cure. They are not a substitute for medical care, lab monitoring, blood pressure control, or a kidney-conscious diet overall. What they can be is a smart addition to a better routine. That's the difference between useful health advice and exaggerated health advice. Useful advice says, this may support the system. Bad advice says, this will fix the system. Those are not the same thing. Here's a simple way to do it tonight. About 30 to 60 minutes before bed, have a small portion of tart cherries or a small amount of unsweetened tart cherry juice if that's the form you tolerate and prefer. Keep it light. Don't pair it with a high-sugar dessert, and don't turn it into a giant snack. The point is to create a calm, modest bedtime habit that supports winding down instead of stimulating your system right before sleep. If you want to make it even more practical, use it as a replacement habit. Instead of reaching for the salty snack, instead of the sugary cereal, instead of the ice cream, instead of eating just because the day was stressful. That's where this gets powerful. Because when a health habit is tied to a real-life moment of temptation, it becomes much easier to maintain. I remember a patient, I'll call her Linda, who was trying to clean up her evening routine because her sleep was inconsistent, her blood pressure was drifting higher, and her labs were starting to raise questions about the direction her kidney health might be heading over time. What she thought she needed was a more extreme diet. What she actually needed first was a better evening pattern. We didn't start by overhauling her entire life. We started with the hour before bed. She replaced her usual late-night processed snack with a much lighter routine, and tart cherries became part of that shift. Not as a miracle food, as a signal. A signal that the day was winding down, the stress eating was over, and the body was moving into rest instead of stimulation. That small change made the bigger changes easier. That's how real progress usually works. Not through one dramatic decision, through one repeatable decision that starts changing the rhythm of your day. And that's why this fruit matters. It's not just about cherries. It's about giving your kidneys a more favorable overnight environment. It's about reducing late-night damage from the foods that work against you. It's about supporting sleep, which supports the systems your kidneys depend on. And it's about building a routine that feels sustainable enough to keep. Everything in this video is educational information, not personalized medical advice. If you have kidney disease, take prescription medications, have been told to follow fluid or electrolyte restrictions, or have any medical condition that affects what you can safely eat, check with your healthcare professional before making this a nightly habit. So here's your action plan for tonight. If your doctor has not told you to avoid it, try replacing your usual late-night snack with a small serving of tart cherries or unsweetened tart cherry juice. Keep it simple, keep it light, and pay attention to how your sleep, cravings, and overall evening routine feel over the next several nights. Sometimes, the smartest health habits are not the loudest ones. They're the quiet ones that work while you sleep. If you're going to try this tonight, tell me in the comments, tart cherries or tart cherry juice. And if you want more clear, practical health guidance like this, subscribe now. I've got another video coming up on the nighttime foods that silently make kidney health worse, and one of them surprises almost everyone. I'll see you in the next one.